and trying to make her do something she doesn't want to do if she wants to do this. And so he's getting ready to leave, and then a bunch of her little girlfriends or a bunch of people from the club, they push Jordan up on stage, and then of course they douse her with a ton of water, and she has on that lingerie top, and the first thought in his brain is that was for me, and someone else is seeing it, and she looks out and she sees him, and she goes to him, and he's just like, I'm sorry, I was wrong, and I just should have never did that. Like, I should have just came home. I just should have just talked to you. I shouldn't have stood you up. I'm sorry. And so then, of course, he can't help himself, so he just starts kissing her. And he's like, hell, we'll just deal with this in the morning. Like, I'll deal with this another day with the consequences. So a couple days later, they were actually in the middle about to start having their little session, Jordan and Pike. And Pike gets a phone call from Cole. And so apparently Cole has left the Elena girl and moved back in with his mom, and she's having some work done on her apartment, so they both need a place to stay. So Pike had agreed to pay for a hotel for both of them, but of course they both were like, no, we'll just come. You have plenty of room in your house. We'll just come to your house. So Lindsay, he was like, you can sleep on the couch. And Lindsay's like, I'm the mother of your child. I deserve my own room. And he's like, that's Jordan's room. She pays rent. That is her room, even though she hasn't been sleeping there lately. But, shoot, it's her space. And so Lindsay was like, Cole and Jordan can share a bed for a couple of nights. It's not like they've never slept together. And so Pike was looking for Jordan to put up a fight about it, but she was like, no, because she felt some type of way, I guess, anyway, the fact that the Lindsay woman was even there. And so she was just like, yeah, it's fine. We can stay in the room together. It's not a big deal. And so Pike's pissed, but he can't say anything, because if he says something, then everyone's going to know that they're screwing. So later that night, Lindsay comes into Pike's room trying to seduce him, and he's like, I don't want you. And she's like, we can be good together. I didn't appreciate you before, but now I know what kind of good man you are, and I can make you so happy. We could have a good life in this house. And he looks at, he's like, oh, so that's what it is. She wants to live in this house. And so he's like, no, it's not happening. So he gets up and he leaves, and he goes outside to the pool, and he sees Jordan. And she's just like, why won't you tell him, and we can just start to try and move forward? And he's just like, you don't understand. I could lose him for good, and I just can't risk that. Like, I've given up everything for this child. Like, this could send him to a place where I never get him back, and I just can't do it. And she was like, I'm not okay anymore with just hiding around. Like, this isn't good enough for me. Like, I want to be able to go out with you. I want to be able to do things with you. I don't want to keep feeling like a secret. I just don't like this. And so he's like, I know. He's like, I'm sorry. He's like, but I just can't. And so she's like, well, I can't stay here, like, because I can't do this private stuff. This doesn't work for me. I want to be worth, you feeling that I'm worth being on your arm. And so she decides to leave, and she's going to go stay with her sister. And so she goes to the house to pack her stuff. And while she's in her, packing her stuff up, here comes the ex-boyfriend again. I don't know why but he keeps getting invited to everything apparently. So the ex-boyfriend, Jay, comes over, and he sees her in the room, and he's like, oh, so are like you and Cole getting back together since him and Elena broke up? And she's like, no. And he's like, well, we can screw around, teach him a lesson. And she's like, first of all, we can't teach anyone a lesson with that small dick you have. So anyone you screw, if they're screaming out ecstasy, it's a lie, because you're trash in bed. And that was the first time she'd ever stood up to him. And so he just was like, he was furious because he has an anger issue, but he backed off. And so he left. And so when he left out, then Pike came, and Pike's like, don't leave, please stay. And she's just like, no, I can't do it. This isn't going to work for me. I deserve someone who's going to fight for me and think that I'm worth it, and you seem to not feel that way about me. And so I gotta go. So while they're talking, the J guy comes back upstairs. I'm like, this guy is just so annoying. He comes back up and he hears the conversation and he goes, oh, so that's why you turned me down, because you wanted daddy all this time. He's like, I can be your daddy. So Pike ain't gonna go for that. Pike lunges for him and they start tussling. And so when they wind up tussling outside, and Cole's like, what the hell? Like, what's going on? And Jay's like, oh, your dad's, he's got your old girlfriend. And Cole looks and he's like, what? And he's like, yeah, apparently they're screwing. So Cole actually punches Jay. And then he's so pissed, he just he leaves. And while he's leaving, the mom is like, oh, so that's what you're desperate now. You need your son's leftovers. She's going in. It's just a whole mess. And so Jordan leaves too, because, I guess at this point it's out. And he didn't fight for her. So it's like, okay, it is what it is. Even though, they got into that little tussle. But, what she wanted was to let Cole know beforehand, this is what's going on, so he had an opportunity to deal with it. Now, how that was going to pan out, we didn't know, but she wanted to be able to do that instead of hiding. And so it's all out in the open. Next couple of days, she winds up going, of course, staying on her sister's couch, and Pike's trying to reach her, but she's not picking up. He's trying to reach Cole. Cole's not picking up. So then a couple days, he goes by Lindsay's place to try and find out, what's going on with Cole. And she lets him know he's enlisted in the Navy. And he's going to be gone for about 2 months. And I guess training, but it's got another name for it, but I can't remember what that is. And so he goes over to his friend Dutch's house. They talk about it, and he's like, that wasn't gonna work. She's too young for you. She has a whole life ahead of her. That wasn't gonna work. And he's like, I know, and that's why I just let her go. So a couple of months have passed, and he's done all kind of projects around the house. He's gotten his company way ahead of schedule on a lot of things, because all he does is work, because that's it. He doesn't do anything else. And so Jordan decided to leave town. She felt like she just needed to get away. And so she leaves town. She didn't tell anyone where she was going initially. But she did check in with the owner of Grounders, Shell, and her sister Cam. She let him know that she's okay. And Cole had texted her once and was like, do you love him? And she never answered, because she does love Pike. But I guess she kind of felt at the same time, what's the point? We're not going to be together. So she just tried to just cut off everything. So Pike, kind of has a realization. He's like, I love this woman. That's who I want to be with. And, because he was still looking sick. So he comes to Grounders to try and get some type of answers. And Cam was actually helping out Shell, working some shifts. And she was like, I'm not telling you where she is. And he's like, just tell me, is she okay? Just give me something. And so Shell was like, he looks sick. He still looks sick, and it's months later. Like, I think he probably loves the girl. And so she says, I don't know exactly where, but I know she's in South Carolina. Or one of her friends owns a like a little motel there, and she's there. And he's like, well, what's the name? And she said, if you want to know, you'll do the research, you'll find her. And so, sure enough, it's been a couple of months. She's down there, and she's helping out at a motel. And this guy comes in, buys up a bunch of rooms. And normally they try not to have big parties, but they needed the business, so she didn't trip. And then all of a sudden, she hears his voice. She went in the back to go get some printer paper, and she hears Pike's voice. And at first, she kind of wanted to crumble and like run away, but then she's like, no, I'm not the same woman I was before. I need to face him. And so she goes out, and that man lays it all out on the line for her, and he lets her know how he feels about her. And he's like, I love you. I can give you whatever life you want, but you and me, that's what it's supposed to be, and I hope you love me because I am incredibly in love with you. And so they wound up being together, and it was nice. Now, I don't know if I could have did it, but I guess considering the type of situations I don't know, it's kind of tricky. I don't know. That's a tricky one. But it does a fast forward a few years, and it shows where they've been together about 9-10 years now. She graduated from college. She was working for a really good landscape design firm, and then she branched out on her own, and she's been doing great. They have a son, and they have another one on the way. And Cole got married to someone he met while in Japan, where he was stationed. And so they have Pike has a grandson. And it's just a whole beautiful life. It's, everything panned out. And it was cute how he asked her to marry him. She was like, it was like her 20th birthday, and they went mudding, and he got her, I think they're go-karts. I think it was go-karts. And he asked her to marry him right then, and she was just like, oh my gosh. So it all ended well, and it took Cole a little longer, it said, for him to come around, but I think once he found someone that made him happy, then he didn't care anymore, and he saw how happy his dad was. And so initially he was kind of, he wasn't responding to his dad, but his dad kept trying to reach out to him and kept sending letters and different things. And so he, even when Cole graduated from the academy, I guess, is it the academy? I'm not sure. It might be the academy, but he graduated from it after doing the basic training. He went to the graduation, but Pike just kind of stayed in the back. He didn't want to disturb him, but he did want to see his son, graduate. And Cole actually came around to the house, and they had a conversation, and he just kind of let him know, I saw everything, Dad. I saw the way Mom manipulated, and, you've sacrificed everything for me. And I think it's kind of time you start to, do something for yourself. And that is what actually motivated him to go and find Jordan. Because he realized, okay, I can do it now. My son isn't going to hate me for the rest of my life. So it was a good book. Again, it was kind of crazy. It was like, I don't know if that is something I could have done. I think that's kind of weird because I don't know. You've been with this son. I don't know. It's just kind of weird for me. But drop down in the comments. Let me know what you think. We're coming back with the series at the end of the week. And I'm not going to announce what it is yet. But it's going to be a zinger. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club. And please make sure you like, share, and subscribe.